So we're here. Thank you very much for joining me. My name's Suryagupta again from the London Buddhist Centre. And yes, we've been having these sessions called Ask a Buddhist. And I'm joined today by David behind the camera. He was with me last week. And we're going to do our best to answer your questions. I have to say, your questions are fantastic. I've really enjoyed reading them. I think the first week we answered questions around dealing with anxiety and fear. Then last week was around, is society going to be different after this experience? Are we actually going to grow as a people, as a community, as humanity from this experience? So I answered that one last week. This week, the questions were quite varied. So what I'm going to do, I'm teaching this evening as well at 7 o'clock at the London Buddhist Centre. So there's a couple of your questions. Anna and Camilla, you asked me some really fundamental life questions, and it inspired me to base my teaching on that this evening. So do tune in to listen to those. And then the rest of the questions were very varied. I pulled out two main themes. One was around meditation, and the other was around communication. So I'm hoping that we're going to weave those together this afternoon. So let's start with Alexandra. So Alexandra, you asked me, how can I keep myself motivated to meditate alone every morning? And you said that you find yourself struggling a lot at the moment to focus because of everything that's going on, all the difficult things that are going on. So I really want to empathise with you. I do empathise with you, Anna, because actually, when we closed the Buddhist Centre a few weeks ago, I found myself in the mornings, my mind didn't really want to focus on a sort of meditation sort of structure, really, as it normally does. And that was quite interesting. So luckily, I have various different ways I can work with my mind. And I decided in those early days to do mantra. Mantras are really helpful to protecting the mind, for calming the mind, and I also did ritual as well. So those things, puja, if you're familiar with that. So those things really help me focus in a different kind of way. The other thing I know people are doing right now is to meditate along with other people. So we'll put a link in the bio? Description. Thank you very much, David. In the description, there are some online places you can sit with other people. That can be really helpful as well. So, but what do we do if we're struggling? We find ourselves finding it hard to motivate ourselves to meditate. What's going on there? And I was very interested, Alexandra, in the use of the word struggle. I was curious. I became curious. What do you mean by struggle? How does that show up for you? What form is it taking? How is it expressing itself? Because that actually is the beginning of meditation, becoming conscious of even that. But let's step back a little bit, because what I was aware of a few weeks ago, and I've been aware of this throughout my time meditating, is that when there's a big change in one's life, when there's some turbulence that's gone on, particularly unwanted change, the mind reacts to that. And it can feel like, even if you're a very experienced meditator actually, what can happen is like suddenly, it's like if you imagine an ocean or a sea or a river, suddenly the waves on top are very turbulent. They're sort of reflecting the change that's happened outside. So our mind reflects often what's going on outside. What the image that came to mind when I saw your question, Alexandra, was like a jam jar. If you get a jam jar from a pond or something like that, and you sort of put glass on it and you shake up the jar, what happens is you'll see all these sediments, all the silt, all the mud, it gets mixed in with the water, and you can't distinguish the water and the silt. Yeah, that's like our mind. When there's turbulent emotions, there's turbulent thoughts, we feel stirred up. Just like that water, we feel stirred up, and it's hard for us to sort of get that sort of clarity and calm that we're looking for when we want to meditate. So, whatever's stirred up is interesting. It's part of the meditative experience. Often, what we want to do is we don't really often want to engage in that. It makes us feel uncomfortable because that, whatever stirred up is, it might be anxiety, it might be confusion, it might be grief, loss, it might even be anger and resentment that stirred up from the changes that have happened, usually changes that we've had no real control over. And it's hard for us often to want to be with those experiences. So what can happen is you might find yourself just not wanting to sit on the cushion, going, you know what, that's not really going to help me today. And you can tell ourselves that's not really going to help. Or we can say, oh, I'm not feeling it today. But what we're not feeling is we're not wanting to feel our feelings. We're not wanting to confront the fact that actually we are stirred up. So that can happen. Or what can happen is you sit on the cushion and within a few minutes you want to stand up again, or you think, oh, I can't do this today. Let me do something else. Let me go for a walk. Let me put on my phone. You know, the mind finds it a struggle to be with ourselves often. It's really interesting. So what do we do? What do we do if we're not wanting to sit on the cushion, but we suspect it's because of what's going on with us, which it usually is, or we sit on the cushion and then within 5 minutes or 10 minutes we just want to get up again? What do we do? So what I try and do is become curious. What's happening in my experience? I think curiosity and kindness are the two things we need to bear in mind. But even before that, what I'd say is, Alexandra, is to let go of your expectations. Let go of what you think the meditation should be. Let go of what you hope it to be or what it should be, and let go of what it was before. So you might have had an amazing, meditation 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, 2 years ago, and now you sit there and you feel all over the place. It's okay. Let the past go. The past is the past. The future is the future. The past is gone. The future is yet to happen. What we have is ourselves right now. And if we have ourselves right now, all we then need to do is come into a relationship with ourselves right now. And that's where curiosity and kindness come in. So let go of your expectations. If you struggle with letting go of your expectations, I'd say lower your expectations, okay? Many of us kind of think, right, I'm going to, be amazing after meditating. I'm going to have this clear, calm mind. I'm going to be able to deal with the world. Yes, in time. For now, perhaps, but for now, all we need to do is come into relationship with who we are at this moment in time. And that's where curiosity comes in. So when you sit, I'd invite you to firstly just see what's happening in your body. So often if there's anxiety, we'll tighten up. If there's fear, again, that can be constriction in a part of our body. If we're confused, we've got lots of thoughts going around in our minds. So what I'd invite you to do is just come into your body. If there's tightness in your body, see if you can bring some awareness to that and relax it, or just soften around it. See what happens even when you just place your attention there. Often it changes. But I'll talk more about meditation this evening because we'll meditate together. But what I would say is firstly, be curious about what's happening in your current experience. And if you discover, there's sadness, if you discover, there's fear, then see if you can soften in the body to that, because it will manifest itself in the body. And then see if you can bring kindness to that. It's okay. It's understandable that that's what's happening right now. If you can bring some kindness to that, you can let go of all your ideas about what you should be doing and how you should be, and you can just accept yourself as you are, acknowledge yourself as you are. It's a bit like if you're a good friend, be a good friend to yourself. What would you say to the good friend if they were sitting with turbulent emotions? Just doing that and then bringing yourself back to the body, bringing yourself back to the breath if you're doing a breath meditation, that will gradually enable you to find peace in your experience. What's needing to happen is the mind needs to become aligned to the body. So the two things begin to come together a bit, and that's where we begin to find a bit of calm. But firstly, learning to be with ourselves, even with difficulty, is part of the meditation. You are meditating when you're doing that. So I hope that helps. We're all practicing that right now in different ways, actually, if we learn to do that, it really opens up a lot of doors for us. So the other thing I would say, Alexandra, is actually to talk to somebody afterwards about your meditation practice. So if you've got someone who you can share with what happened, that can be really helpful too. So talking to people is that's my segue into the other question that we had, the one other question that we had that I wanted to pick up today, which is around communication. So Mark, you had a really interesting question, which was, Mark, you said you find it really difficult to give advice to people when they're extremely emotional or feeling insecure, and you're particularly worrying about coming across as condescending or preaching. And what happens as well if they're just not receptive to your Buddhist knowledge, your philosophy? So that was your question, Mark, which I thought was a really interesting question. Communication is such a big part of Buddhist practice, actually, how we learn about ourselves, but then how we communicate with other people. They're both really fundamentally important. So I'm going to address that I was reflecting on how I try and do that, not always perfectly, but I certainly try to do a few things when somebody's upset with me. So first thing I try and do is to listen. I think you'll know this, Mark, from your own experience, that when you're upset, somebody really listening to you, really taking in your experience has a huge effect. Just feeling heard and understood actually is often part of what helps us heal or understand what's going on for us. So you approaching somebody by listening to them and really trying to understand what their experience is, it really helps. And you can show your understanding by, after they've spoken, reflecting back to them what you've heard them say. And again, that makes them go, okay, yeah, that's what I meant, or no, that wasn't quite what I said, this is what I mean. So they can clarify their experience, which really helps you then be appropriate in what you're going to say. Sometimes what happens in our communication is somebody speaks about something and it triggers for us, oh, yes, I had an experience like that, and this is a teaching I found really helpful. And then quite quickly, we go into what we have found helpful. What we have found helpful may be what they also find helpful, but it might not be. They might need a completely different approach to us because they're different to us and they've had a different life experience to us. So the listening and trying to understand is really helpful. And the other way we can really understand is by asking them open questions. So we, inquire a little bit by just asking some questions. Again, that helps them reflect a bit more deeply into their experience. Once we've done that, if there is a teaching that you think, oh, this has been really helpful, or just something you want to offer based on your own experience, then I would offer it. But I would sort of say to them, would it be helpful for me to share some of my reflections, or would it be helpful to share what I thought, I was thinking about, in having heard what you've had to say? That gives them a bit of space to kind of go, yeah, please do, but also go, no, it's just enough that you've listened to me today. So let's not underestimate how powerful it is to be listened to with kindness, with openness. And if they are open to teaching, then they've given you permission, in a sense, to share that with them, which means that they're more likely to be receptive to you. And all you're then doing is sharing your understanding, some of your experience teaching. Teachings are like precious jewels. I mean, they are precious jewels. They're a light in darkness. So I really want us to be sharing the Buddhist teachings. And how we share them and the context we share them are as important as the teaching themselves, which is what's fascinating about communication, I find, that how we share something can make as much difference as to what we share. And that person who's distressed, who you're talking to, in 2 months' time, 3 months' time, they might remember more about how you were when you were listening to them and your kindness and your attentiveness than what you actually said to them. Or in 3 months' time, they might remember that you were very kind and you said this one thing, this one teaching that they're now thinking about, they're now taking in on a different level. So that's my suggestions to you, Mark, to listen, to ask open questions, to seek some permission before you give advice, in a sense, and to share your own reflections in a spirit of an offer, really, that they can choose to accept or leave aside. But how you do the communication is as important as what you say. So I hope that's helpful, Mark, and good luck. We need other people around us right now who can guide us, support us, but more importantly, just be with us through this experience. So thank you very much for your questions. I'll be back tonight, as I said, and I'm very inspired by a couple of the questions that came in, so I'll be talking about that. This might be the last Ask a Buddhist in this particular format, but we're probably going to put it onto a different channel as well. So if you're not signed up at the moment to our newsletter updates, do. So you'll get a first update as to where you can keep asking questions. I've really enjoyed answering your questions and love you to keep sending them in. Okay, so thank you very much for tuning in. Thanks for David behind the scenes, and I'll see you again. Thank you.